Welcome to O's Across the Pond, the show covering all things Baltimore Orioles, but from a fresh European perspective. Join us for the highs, the lows, the heartbreaks, and everything in between. Whether you're a die-hard fan or just discovering Birdland, this is your home for passionate, across-the-pond Orioles talk. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to O's Across the Pond. Did somebody order a portion of back-to-back sweeps? Obviously, we were happy with the White Sox sweep, but could we go out on the road to Seattle and continue the recent resurgence? Joining me today, he may sound full of cold. Man flu has had him in a headlock for the last 5 days, is Andy.
So, the dictionary definition of man flu is a cold or something minor, as experienced by a man is regarded as... Yeah, exactly. It's not man flu. It's far, far worse than that. It's a knockout blow. But good to see everyone, and it's nice to be talking on the back of something a little bit more positive for a change.
Definitely. It's been a couple of late nights for us over this side of the pond. 2 games were at 2:40 a.m. in the morning, and I'll be honest, I had a night off for the first game. I turned my phone off, put the laptop away and just recharge the batteries. It was much needed. So with that, it was nice to wake up and see that the O's had won game 1. Andy, how important was it to get a good start in that game and win the first game?
And to be honest, Thomas, we noticed that you were missing in action because the late night chat, which is normally full of Thomas credits and debits, I'll call them, of how the Orioles were playing, were just not there. It was very, very quiet. And it was bizarre for the first time this season not being able to watch a condensed game until something stupid where we had to scramble around to try and not see the score. But when we finished last week's recording, we'd just come off the back of that 3-game sweep against a similarly lowly White Sox, whilst the most optimistic of us had us scraping 2 games to 1 maybe. It was really going to be down to getting a good start in game 1. We saw Tommy Sagano on the mound. We've had some good dairy news in the milkman coming back. Colton Cowser joined the team from the DL. And boy, did we get that performance from Sagano. He barely put a finger wrong. I think he made one mistake, in the whole 7 innings, which resulted in a homer for Rowdy Tellez, who reminds me a bit of Prince Fielder and can run probably half the speed of Prince Fielder. But otherwise, he was really, really good. I mean, we've been saying for ages that keeping us in the hunt for a game is absolutely key. And he did exactly that. The bats have appeared to wake up a little bit. And even though it's still early days in game 1, Adley, Gunnar and Heston, who have all had their fair share of criticism on this pod and others, all had strong days. So they went a combined 10 for 15 on the day. Albeit, we seem to be struggling with getting the ball out of the outfield, so it's just mostly singles. But Colton Cowser also came up. He delivered as if he'd never given up his milk round. He hit the O's only home run in the 6th when starting pitcher George Kirby had to leave the game. He took a ball to the face and was visibly bleeding at the time, so he did that off the reliever. One query, and we've queried a few of Mansolino's decisions over the time. A slightly strange decision to pitch the mountain in the 9th. It wasn't a save, and me personally, I was hoping it wasn't going to come to bite us in the next games because we know he can only just about do back-to-back games, and if the games are close, and let's face it, most of the games we're seeing at the moment are close games, we might suffer. We'll come to that in a bit, but total of 7 hits for the Mariners, only 1 run, a great way to get 4 straight wins, and it set the scene for game 2.
Yeah, I mean, game 2, another outstanding performance. I set my alarm for that one. Plenty of cups of coffee and other caffeinated drinks are available on the market. Well, for me, Cade Povich going into this game was probably the kind of the final one in the rotation who was under the pressure of Morton's being under pressure after his first 10 starts. He seems to have come out of that now and we've seen it improving, but Povich for me was the one who I think he was one bad performance away from probably being optioned back down to AAA.
Definitely a risk, I agree.
But I thought he had an outstanding performance. 5 strikeouts, 2 walks with 2 earned runs. There was a period in the middle of his performance where he got a bit stuck, and I think it was in that 5th inning where usually you see with Kapovic he can get through 3, 4, and then he gets into the 5th and he can get himself in a situation that he can't get out of.
Yep.
He managed to do that this time around. I thought Soto outstanding, coming in, 1 inning pitched, 3 strikeouts. Felix Bautista, obviously, as you said there in game 1, I didn't understand the reason behind playing him in game 1. The only thing maybe is obviously Mansolino had said late last week that when he was talking about playing Bautista back to back, it was about building him up to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But when the save isn't on the line, I just don't think it's worth the risk. Obviously, he came in, he got the save, although it was pretty nervous at 5:30 in the morning watching that one. Look, as you said, game 1, the bats got going. That continued into game 2. Adley, he seems to be turning the corner, although, with his turning circle, he's turning it slow.
Yep, the QE2 reminds me of Adley coming round. Not as bad as the Mariners' first baseman though.
Yeah, Kerstad with the triple to bring the run in towards the end.
That was a cracking piece of batting. That was. It was straight down the line, hooking away, and Kerstad didn't have a triple up until this week, and he's got 2 now.
The only thing I will say about Kerstad is he just looks like he is struggling so much now in the outfield. And I was speaking to Steve Miluski before, which will be out at some point later this week. We were talking about Heston Kerstad, and he was saying that maybe now with him, it's just in his head that his head's telling him you're a bad outfielder, and now he doesn't seem to think that he is. And I think Grant is the same thing, and that I don't know whether he's got a career in the big leagues other than being a designated hitter. I don't know.
No, I agree with that. He doesn't look comfortable out there. It's not an easy position. Let's get it wrong. Anthony Santander struggled there for a few years as well. It's not easy when you play cricket, when the ball comes off the bat like it does, with a lot of spin, and you've got the difference in all different outfields. It's not an easy place to play. I'd challenge probably that centre field is probably easier because everything's in front of you. But he does look a bit like a rabbit in headlights sometimes, and it's a 50-50 chance whether he catches it or not.
Yeah, and I think I don't know whether, I know in other sports, the sports psychology side of it, with knowing that you've got players behind you or coming back from injury, whether that's playing on his mind. A lot of the times players tend to improve. I don't know whether he's just in a tough spot mentally, because look, we know from this kid's kind of back catalogue, he can hit, he can field. At the moment, it's just not happening for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Continued positive to me. It looks like now, and especially since Mansolino has come in, this team has figured out a way to win no matter what situation they're finding themselves in. We're starting to win games coming back like we did in 2023 and at parts 2024.
Absolutely.
They've gone back to just enjoying being out there playing ball.
You can see that in their faces. We'll come to game 3 in a minute, but some of the body language that you saw from the dugout was just back to the way it was, and it was really good. Getting Cowser back is a big thing. He is part of that.
Huge.
He is part of that dynamic of the outfield and bringing everyone together, having a bit of fun. If you can have fun in your job and enjoy it, half the battle is done. If you're struggling, that fun and everything will pull you through. Whatever you do, whether you're a baseball player, whatever you do in life.
Yeah, and obviously, credit for me, a lot of it goes to Tony Mansolino. He seems to have turned things down. It's hard not being in there or being a fly on the wall. I would like to be a fly on the wall for these last 2 weeks since I'm coming in and speaking to the guys in the clubhouse and speaking to the guys in the bullpen, because they've just gone back to playing simple baseball. And
as we said,
they
had all those hits. They were all singles. It doesn't matter because if you keep getting singles, the runs will come. you don't have to do a Ryan Mountcastle and try and hit the ball out of the stadium every single time you come at bat, even if the ball's like 20 feet away.
Yeah, it's just like, your backup catcher work, being 0-2 in the count, two out, working a walk, stealing a base.
Absolutely
and then,
ridiculous run. You've stolen my thunder a little bit, but
Sorry.
The rest of the season we would not have seen that because it just wouldn't have happened. There is a bit of luck as well, of course. Let's face it. Wu, I think he had one wild pitch in a season and a half and did 2 in 1 inning, which is what. But
yeah,
take it while we can.
It's
not always going to be like that.
That was always going to be the biggest challenge for me going into Game 3. Facing Brian Wu, who is the Mariners' ace. He's been outstanding this season. He's been great for them for last year as well. Look, the O's had to be solid across the park. You've got the confidence. You're 2-0 up in the series going into this game, but you're facing Brian Wu. There was an interesting matchup. Not only Wu against Eflin, just a straight out starting matchup, was how excellent Wu had been facing the 7, 8, and 9 in the lineup, and the total opposite was Eflin, how much he struggled against 7, 8, and 9. So there was that matchup at play there, and I don't know whether it was Jim Palmer, Kirsten going into the 5th. Jim Palmer had said, Wu has been outstanding going into the 5th, 6th, and how
bang.
How low his ERA had been in them innings, and we seen what happened. So I apologise for stealing your thunder. I hadn't read that far down, but we can go into it again.
Absolutely, I'm going to repeat it anyway. I mean, you're right, and the frustration from my side is that Wu seems to have stolen Gunnar Henderson's walk-up music, because every time all I could hear on the condensed game was woo-hoo. But unfortunately, it wasn't. It was who, because this one was a bit of a very different game. It was a topsy-turvy game, and strong performance from Zach, who pitched going to the 5th. He'd just given up the 1 run. Cal Raleigh inevitably did the damage in that by hitting a single. To Dylan Carson brought Jorge Polanco home, but, and I'll repeat it, we had the bizarre lead that Maverick Handley, he walked, and you're right, from an 0-2 count, he walked it. He then took second on a wild pitch, took third with an Adley ground out, and walked home on a second wild pitch. It doesn't happen to the O's. It did. And it happened to your number 9 hitter, who is, let's face it, he's a struggling hitter. Great catcher. I do like him behind the plate. I think the pitchers enjoy pitching to him. He calls a good game. He frames the ball well. I think he's a good number 2. Obviously, we've got the potential of Gary Sanchez coming back in the next few days, I would think, but we'll wait and see. But what then surprised me is, when you listen to the condensed game, which obviously at that time of the morning I'm not going to sit down and watch 3 hours of baseball, much as I'd love to, but unfortunately we've all got things that we need to do, like live. In the 5th inning, they pitched to Cal Raleigh. Now, if you listen to the condensed game, the Seattle announcers were saying, why are they pitching to him? You have first base open, you've got 2 outs, just walk him, you've got a double play then. And we had this before, a few series ago, but we didn't, and he hit home run.
I think what confused me most about that is just before Raleigh came up to the plate, there was a mound visit, and clearly the conversation was, who do you fancy pitching to? So either Eflin has said, I fancy this, or the calls come from the pitching coach, and it was clear, you could see it coming. I think as soon as there was that back crack, I put in the WhatsApp group, that was inevitable. You could see that coming a mile off. 2 outs, no one on first. All right, you had a runner on second. Walk him. He's the hottest bat in baseball at the moment.
There's 24 home runs, and in that park where the wind is a bit different in that park, and it was keeping things in. but he can hit it, and he really can hit it. He's got a lot of power in that frame. So don't pitch to him. It's a bit like Aaron Judge. I know people, New York Yankees fans, don't like it, but just don't pitch to him. You didn't see people pitching all the time to Barry Bonds years and years ago. They would be selective when they do it, when there's no one on. But if you've got a player on and you've got a 1-run lead, don't do it. Anyway, but for our credit, something different happened. It's like 3 weeks ago, the white flag would have gone up, the white and orange flag, and said, "Yeah, well done, thank you very much. We'll just do nothing for the rest of the game." But we didn't. Jackson worked a walk. Adley slapped it over the wall to tie it, and that was 2 home runs in the series. We won't use any backwards or anything like that, but Adley is turning the corner slowly, as you rightly mentioned earlier. And then we went back to back, which doesn't normally happen. We don't normally go back to back. So blink of 3 batters, we're back in the lead. And this is where the Felix decision became a little bit stranger, because now we're all in a one-run game. We knew he wasn't going to be risked, but Aiken, Kittredge, and the currently magnificent, and he is, Brian Baker, they combined for 3 innings, 1 hit, no runs. Enable the sweep mode. Go home, move down to whichever city Oakland might want to play in this week, down in Sacramento. And yeah, it was un-Oriole-like this year, but Oriole-like in the past. That's what we used to do. We always used to come back.
That's what we did in 23, and for the first part of 24. On the subject of Adley and Gunnar going back to back, I've been critical of Adley about being number 2 in the lineup. However, with Jackson Holiday leading off Adley and Gunnar, there is the potential there for them 3 to be able to get a game underway, or in the end of the 3rd and beginning of the 4th inning to get going. It's incredible. So hopefully, Adley has turned the corner. Hopefully, I wouldn't say Gunnar's been poor this year. Obviously, he's had his struggles. Didn't have a spring training. He had a bit of an upkeep.
It's not been as good as we know Gunnar can be. That's the thing. But if you're coming on to every time with the bases empty and a 4-run deficit, where's your motivation? Now, you're right. Jackson is doing wonderful things at leadoff. If Adley can just keep doing that and hitting 2s and 3 hits every single game, which we know he's very, very capable of, and then you've got O'Hearn to come up a clean-up as well. And he hasn't stopped. Whilst everyone else has improved, Ryan O'Hearn's still bashing it all over the place. Opposite field, which we never saw from Ryan O'Hearn. He's very much Chris Davis-like in that he would always do it. He'd always hook it. Not now. He's really, really good. And I'm hoping that he gets the right answer when we get the votes for the All-Star game, that he's in it.
I get the Ryan O'Hearn, Chris Davis comparison. However, I hope the comparison doesn't continue if Ryan O'Hearn gets a contract extension and then doesn't carry on that Chris Davis comparison.
And we'll still be paying him in 2093, which is probably what we're going to be doing with Chris Davis.
After O'Hearn goes 0 for 54, and that's
we just need to make sure there's no Adderall or whatever Chris Davis was taking, and there's no issues with tablets and stuff like that. But Chris Davis just fell off a cliff, as we know. But unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get the chance to see that anyway with Ryan O'Hearn. But we're certainly in a very different position than we were even 2 weeks ago when it comes towards the trade deadline.
I mean, look, I know everybody bangs on it. It's just about getting to 500, and what 11? It'll be 11 games back of 500.
But only 7.5 off the wild card.
Over 7.5 of the wild card, and again, I've had the pleasure of speaking to some great people today and this week about the O's come the deadline, and we're still 6-7 weeks away from that, the All-Star break. And the consensus seems to be from a lot of people asking the question is, if the O's are 3.5, 4.5 games back of the wild card come the deadline, they are not going to sell.
In fact, it may turn it around.
It
may be biased. You just never know. It depends who's back. It depends on the roster. But You can see it.
I just can't see us being. You know, I'd probably say if you're 5.5 games back is probably the maximum. But if you can get to
it also
4,
depends what's on offer, of course. Because if someone comes in with a ridiculous offer, you're going to be tempted, but you're not going to give away the players with Matsedi and for 3-year away prospects that are in single A or whatever.
No.
You need to get something material, but it's going to be a very interesting 6-7 weeks.
We're not at the point, anywhere near the point of where it's like we're going to have to get rid of 3 or 4, bring in 8, 9, 10 prospects and go through like a kind. We're not at that point. It's not going to happen. I think,
which is good because we were all worried that was going to be the case. I think if we'd have carried on that trajectory, I don't think there was any chance that we wouldn't be. But we all asked for a 10-game win streak. All those months ago when we started this pod, all we need is a 10-game win streak. Well, we're 0.6 of the way, 60%. We're getting there.
You know, look, the Nationals did it in 2019, albeit it wasn't as bad a start. And I think, you know, regardless of what happens, you look at the free agency market come the end of the season for pitching. It's about 5-6 pages long.
There's a lot coming up.
There's been a lot of talk about pitching depth with the O's this year and what went wrong. You look at Red Sox signed the free agents. The New York Yankees signed the other free agents, Max Fried, and who was the other one who went to the Red Sox, Boucher.
You got no chance when you're competing against those massive.
And Corbin Burns obviously went to the Diamondbacks. So out of the 3 free agents that we could have had, 2 of them have landed in your division.
Exactly.
So I think keep the core, try and keep as many people, as you say, if someone that comes in with a ridiculous offer, then you'd be foolish not to listen. But
and there's listening and doing, isn't there? And understanding, if you get a big haul for one of them, happy days. If it can work, but it needs to work this season potentially, because there's your problem. We don't want to sell this season out just because someone came in with a trade offer.
I think that the performances over the last 2 weeks, I mean, obviously you've back-to-back weeks, but since Mazzolino has come in, the performances,
it's a step change.
It does give you hope. Yeah,
we 8-2 over the last 10 now. And I will remind everyone, we've only got 17 more wins to beat the American League record of consecutive victories, which is 22. So 17 plus 6, 23 when I went to school, which was a long, long time ago, and you don't need to tell me that. But let's keep on hoping, and then when we come to do Sunday's pod, we could be up to a massive 9, just getting into double figures. So let's hope.
And I did also say on the last big pod that we did where we were all together that come the end of June, I don't think the O's are going to be the worst team in the
I think you may well be right.
AL East.
I think you may well be right.
Yeah, I think that there's another organisation in the AL East which is in a far worse position than the O's, and possibly they should be in a considerably better position than where we are at the moment.
Absolutely.
So, look, as you said, 8-2 in the last 10, back-to-back sweeps. We're going to, I don't even know where we're going. They haven't got a city, they haven't got a home. I believe it's Sacramento against the Athletics. A team that, up until last night, were 1-19 in the last 20.
They hit loads of runs.
Showed up and showed out last night against the Twins. Look, it's going to be, I think it could be a tough series, you know. Andy, you've got some stuff you want to cover there as we go into this.
This is the Orioles we're watching, and we need to sometimes stand back and remember that we're watching the Orioles, and they have this annoying habit of doing silly things. This has got the potential to be a big banana skin if we're not careful. I was lucky enough last year. I went to Seattle and then saw the last series down at the Coliseum, and that was a poor baseball stadium in not a nice area of Oakland. If there is a nice area of Oakland, I don't actually know there is. But apart from seeing James McCann pitch, which was actually quite one of the highlights, because Kay Povich had imploded in the first inning, it wasn't as easy as we expected it to be, because at that time they were bottom of the everywhere. But I see the same thing here. They're poor, but as we know, we've seen the O's come back. There's the opportunity. You only have to have a few bad pitches and get 4 or 5-0 down in the first or second inning, and the old O's could be back. But we're back to stupid o'clock in the morning over here. So 3:05 a.m. UK time, that wonderful time of the day that no one should ever see unless they're still up from the night before. But you will, Thomas. We know.
I will be setting my alarm for
Indeed.
tonight.
So even though the
morning.
game's only a matter of a few hours away, they've still not decided who might want to be pitching against us. I think they're scared of us.
It's a weird. I mean, have they got issues in the bullpen? I mean, well, obviously 1 and 19 of the last 20.
Yeah, so the bullpen's going to be pretty fried, isn't it? But they've obviously got to make some decisions and do something. We've got Dean Kramer on the mound. Last 5 games, 3-2, 3.43 ERA, which is pretty respectable. That's better than his career numbers. On his day, he's faster than he looks. He does quite a few nifty fastballs that you don't expect from Dean, but I like him as a person.
Yeah,
he does sneak him in. I like him as a pitcher. The club love him. He's a good clubman as well. But we need him to do the same. And whether Jordan Westburn makes a trip, I don't see that he will. We may find out later that he's been called up, but I don't think this is the right series to bring him into. You may as well just leave him there and bring him back to the sanctity of Camden Yards when we face, I think it's Detroit next that we're playing. Yeah. Game 2 again, 3:05. What a time to be up on a Sunday morning. But I've used the words revitalised and refreshed. Charlie Morton against TBA. So we will see whether the Zimmer frame is finally been put to bed completely, anything like he's been over the last couple of games, and we're in a good place because we're actually seeing what we actually paid. Yeah, we paid a lot, but what we paid for.
Definitely.
And then on to game 3. We might actually be able to see that without having to set an alarm because it's 9:05 UK time. Our mate Tommy Sagano's up for that game, and he is absolutely the best pitcher we've had for a long time. I put him as good as Corbin Burns, to be fair. I think he has picked up the US baseball with all the changes from his Japanese time, and he's run with it. He had a bit of problem in the first game with a bit of arm soreness, but he's been lights out since. And you just see Adley Rutschman's eyes light up when Tommy's pitching, and the morale just goes zooming up when Tommy's pitching.
Yeah, I love watching Uncle Tommy pitch for the O's. He comes across as well that he's got that infectious character about him, and he's just happy for everyone. Even when we were struggling, it looked like every time, even if he was, down in the batter's pen or if he was up in the bullpen watching them work out, he always seems to have a smile on his face. And as you say, that what a lot of people don't realise and understand, especially probably new baseball fans, that he's come over from Japan, and the baseballs in Japan have like a built-in tackiness to them, so all kinds
everything's
of
different.
And
he's 35 years old, so it's not as if he's a new boy. He's a rookie this year, but that's not real. He's been used to this for years. It's probably like playing cricket with a tennis ball and then coming across and smacking a red cricket ball miles a bit. He's been great, absolutely great.
Or playing your whole career just facing a red ball, and then all of a sudden you get thrown into a one-day team and you've got to face a white ball.
What's all this about? Yeah, indeed.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, obviously, the athletics series, we said, when Mansolino came in, pretty much every series we talked about, it's a must-win series, and, coming off 2 back-to-back sweeps, even though the A's have been poor recently, they fell off a cliff. They've got 3 first-rounders in the Twins game last night, went 7 for 15 with 4 homers and 10 RBIs. So that's what we need. We've got to contend with tonight to make it 7 behind Dean Kramer. So hopefully we can get the job done. Series, I I think we've shown enough that we can get a series win 2-1. Even better if we get the sweep, big series. Then next week, which we'll discuss on Sunday, Detroit won't we face Scoop
Yeah,
Alley?
it's a big one, isn't it?
Miss them.
Whether or not you face them, they're a good team, and we don't play well against Detroit. We tend not to. They sort of have this hoodoo over us, but
I mean the series out in Detroit earlier on the season is quickly forgotten.
I can't remember what happened.
So as we always like to do, we try and finish on a positive, And the last few episodes we have had positives
absolutely
to talk about. So Andy, what's your
I'm just going to say 3 words, and I know they're banned, and therefore I'm risking being banned from the podcast forever.
I said them in the group the other night.
Are we back? ? So that's my positive. I think we are. I think we are doing more than we've done for the whole season. If we can carry that on, then there's only positive things going forward. If we fade back, then I'll rescind it and we'll go, no, we're not. And then we'll be sellers at the trade deadline. But the good thing is, I think we are back and we're doing a blooming good job of doing it. And let's face it, we're an entertaining team at the moment. Even if we're not hitting millions of home runs, we're scoring the runs, we're hitting the singles, situational hitting was talked about many times. That's what we're doing at the moment. So there's my positive.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, when we start hitting them home runs,
because we've got the power. We absolutely have the power, as He-Man used to say.
To all parts of the park.
You can hit anywhere. You've got Kauser, you've got Kerstad, Silent J, you've got Adley, Gunner. Jorge's going to hit a grand slam, as you well know, Thomas. I think your money's safe on that one, or your tattoo is anyway, because
I think the skin's safe.
Absolutely. After watching him attempt to hit the ball yesterday, and I'm thinking, oh dear, never mind. I think we're safe. But pretty much everyone can hit a massive home run, and if you do that with 2 or 3 people on base, hey, the numbers start rocketing.
Yeah, for me, the positive is just how much this rotation has turned itself around.
100%.
I think the last 8-9 games, the starters have got an ERA of 1.99.
Which is elite. Absolutely elite.
Yeah. So if they can keep it up and the bats can keep, the bats still have work to do to get to where we know they are.
You've got a chance.
But finally now, as we've said earlier on in this season, that it was always the bats were doing something and the bullpen wasn't, or you'd have the rare occasion where the bullpen would step up and the bats and they needed to kind of work together in a happy marriage of matrimony and so 50-50.
It's a team game, and that's the thing. If one half of your team doesn't work, you're not going to win all your games. It's like if you don't concede any goals in football, you're going to win more than you lose because you're not going to lose any. So that's it.
Yeah.
So it's really good that we're in a positive mood at the moment, and we could be facing a harder opponent than the No City A's. So let's see where it goes, and hopefully we'll have some good things to talk about on Sunday.
Yeah, hopefully. So with that, there is nothing really much else for us to cover apart from just to say thank you to everyone who's listened, liked, subscribed, watched the videos now that we re-record them and put them on Spotify and YouTube. There's a couple of huge weeks coming up for us on this podcast. There's a lot of guests coming on, a lot of all top quality guests. We've got guys coming on from the Baltimore Banner, more guys and girls coming from Matson, journalists, and hopefully, there might just be some huge news coming out of the UK and over across the pond in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely echoing that. I think when we started, episode 17. I didn't think any of us dreamed that it would get even to episode 5, let alone episode 17. But to have that quality of guest, and I know I'm lucky enough to see who's coming up, and I think everyone is going to be absolutely blown away with the quality of people that we and mainly you, Thomas. The work is yours. Getting onto the
Thank
pod to move forward the O's over the pond, and the different take that we can give. We know our baseball, I think, is one of the things they come back, which is really good because we watch it from afar, but we enjoy it from afar, and we set our lives around a lot of it, especially you getting up at stupid o'clock in the morning. I'm sure that won't happen too much more when the call of work comes in. But absolutely, but we've got a good team of people here as well. You've got Simon, you've got Grant, you've got Matthew, you've got me, you, and others coming on, which is absolutely brilliant. That we've got some variety as well. So long may it continue, and it's most enjoyable.
Yeah, so that's it for episode 17. Massive, once again, thank you. Andy,
no problem.
Thank you for joining me. It's been great. It's been a pleasure.
I will be, but number 17 is Colton Cowles' number, so he will be hitting some runs tonight.
I hope so, especially if I'm up at 3:05. What's it? Take it easy, mate. Thank you. Bye now.
That's it for this episode of O's Across the Pond, bringing Birdland to Europe one episode at a time. Be sure to subscribe, share and follow along as we keep the Orioles conversation going from this side of the Atlantic. Until next time, stay loud, stay proud and let's go O's!